I think there's probably a lot of people who are listening who don't really understand what a turnkey operation is. So can you kind of
Yeah.
break down how that works?
Yeah. So everyone sees online, they see these wholesalers, they're like, hey, turnkey rental, $30,000, collected 500 bucks. That's not what I do. I do a high level turnkey. So what that means is like all your mechanicals or your majors or like your CapEx items have 10 years of life plus on them. So if you're unfamiliar what those items might be, think of like your roof, your furnace, your hot water tank, your kitchens, baths, windows, stuff like that. So if the roof is older than 20 years, we replace it, right? Because a typical roof has 30 years. If the furnace is older than 10, we replace it. Typical furnace has 20, 25 years. Hot water tank's older than 5, we replace it because given a hot water tank 15-year life. We always throw in new kitchens, just a small like rental grade kitchen where most of these homes are 1,000 to 1,500 square feet in the Akron Canton market. So there's not like I'm laying out 20 kitchen cabinets, it's not possible. And then in the bathrooms, new tub, new vanity with a tub surround. We don't do any tile because it try to cut down on the maintenance if you have like grout and stuff like that. So just a tub surround always works well for that. Easy on the cleanup. So we sell like a high level turnkey, and typically these are cash flowing like $300 to $400 after purchase, and then we
Nice.
provide property management on the back end.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So you basically find the properties, you rehab them, and then you sell them to somebody who wants to just hold them but not manage them. They want to use you as
Yeah,
the manager, so you'll manage them for them. So you're basically handling all the pieces of the operation, and they get a turnkey rental property as a result.
yeah. So you get the depreciation, the cash flow, the appreciation, and then you get the pay down, the principal pay down, right, from your tenant. So whether that's, I mean, most of these price points are, 115,000 to 170,
Okay.
depending, if you're buying a duplex, a single family, what area of Akron Canton you're in, if you're in a suburb, and typical rents are like 11.95 to, we had a single family that was rented out for 16.50 and some duplexes that were rented in the 2,000 mark. But, I mean, you're cash flowing that 300 bucks usually plus, and just having that principal pay down every month and the depreciation and appreciation. So it's always stuff people forget about. They just look at the cash flow, but they're not thinking about the tax benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I guess and one question that I think comes up a lot when people start thinking about this is why not just keep all these yourself? Like what
I
drives you
do keep
to
a lot.
sell them? Okay.
So, I mean, you can't keep everything. My big thing is my risk tolerance level, right? So what I do with a lot of these is like, let's say I sell 10 turnkey rentals, I'll go buy in cash and make my own turnkey rental, so it's debt free. So that's kind
Mm,
of the other part of this, right? Um, I guess I could keep all of them. I always said if everyone just stopped buying turnkeys tomorrow, I'd refinance them and have 60 additional rentals to my, 40 or 50 now. And some of these I do keep when I buy them. I keep them for a while, and then tenant moves out. I'm like, hey, needs like a big reno here, so you might as well do a turnkey and sell it, right? And get all the cash back out of it after we put it into it. So I have a few like that. Have been tenants have been there for 2 years, paying way below market, but there's no maintenance calls, and I just hold on to them. And when they move out, I'll go ahead and renovate it and sell it.
nice, nice.
Yeah.
That's great. Um, and are most of the buyers who are buying the turnkey properties are they buying them in their self-directed IRAs, or is it just regular purchase with the DSCR loan, or how does that the financing work?
So typically they'll buy them in their personal name and then transfer them over into an LLC,
Okay.
just for better rates and stuff like that. I've had some people buy them in a trust. I mean, I've seen people use the down payment from their IRAs, things like that.
Hmm.
Um, Not a ton of IRA buyers because you don't get the depreciation in your IRA, I believe if that's correct.
Right.
So I do a lot of IRA flipping myself or lending to to people out of my IRA. So I'm totally familiar with the self-directed stuff. It's a great vehicle to help build tax-free retirement money for sure.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Um, and I guess how do you, as a turnkey operator, like if somebody else was looking at this model who's listening and they're interested
Yeah.
in maybe creating a turnkey operation, how does the operator get paid, beyond, obviously a management fee for managing, but
Sure.
what does that look like?
Yeah, so I mean, it's just like flipping a property, right? So you get paid on the sale of the property. Something that's different about flipping a property to a turnkey person is I don't want to call it an intimate relationship, but I always try to make it more of a personal relationship. I always, if someone listens to this, that's talked to me on the phone on one of my people that bought it, I always say, hey, I always want to talk to the person buying it. I don't want them to feel like there's the buyer, the seller, and then like two realtors in between and we're going to battle it out. No,
Yeah.
I want you to feel like you're getting the buyer and the seller on the same page. I'm setting you up for success because I know something I do as a turnkey operator. If there's a maintenance call within the first 30 days of that tenant moving in, I take care of it. I
Mm,
have to take care of it. It's my reputation. Like if you had someone move in and then day one there's a situation that arises that was a rehab situation, it looks like, how terrible does that look, right?
yeah. Yeah.
It looks terrible. So I take care of it, and half the time I don't even tell people if something goes wrong. The management company's like, "Hey, this happened." I'm like, "All right, send in the guy. Be handled in an hour." And that's key because then if you're able to respond to the service calls immediately, you have a happy tenant, right? They already have one of the best houses in the neighborhood. They're getting top-notch service from a PM company, and quickly too. And that owner is going to be happy too because there's no maintenance bill, right?
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
always situations. I mean, I've had one of the worst things. I had a sewer line collapse after purchase, right?
Ugh.
Which was terrible, right? You're like, that is like the worst nightmare could ever happen. But what did we do? We took care of the sewer line after closing. You couldn't find one MLS deal like that where someone's taking care of the situation after closing,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
So I
Absolutely.
mean,
Yeah.
we still have inspections, but stuff sometimes gets missed, or sometimes it's something stupid like, hey, my keys don't match. I don't have a key for the back door, like
Yeah.
So that's an easy swap, and that's not a big deal. But those things do arise. If you sell 300 plus homes, stuff pops up. But if you're going to be an elite turnkey operator, you have to go back and make sure that things are right. Is my
Yeah.
personal opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny because when I was first getting started with real estate, I'd go to a lot of conferences and stuff. And
Yeah,
I remember seeing a lot of turnkey operators there that were kind of bigger in the space. And I thought that must mean they're successful. And then you'd go a few years later and find out that they were sued by a whole bunch of people and they're no longer in existence because
right.
these guys would go out and find, a ton of properties, rehab
Hmm.
them, not do that great of a job on the rehab, sell them,
Yeah,
create this huge management problem for themselves because now they've got all these tenants calling, all these management issues. They're not doing a good job there. And so all these people thought they're getting something turnkey. And it was this nightmare that never cash flowed. And so they're complaining and suing. And um, so,
yeah, for
uh,
sure.
so how, it seems like the management piece of it, everything else seems great, but then the management piece seems like the most challenging aspect of it. Is that the case for you? And if so, what do you do to make sure that you can still maintain a viable management business?
Yeah, so the management is the long-term relationship. That's always the toughest part. So we want to make sure that you're just providing. First thing, you always have to get good tenants, right?
Yeah.
Tenants make everything. So having a great leasing department is always key number one situation.
Okay.
If you get a great leasing department and you're getting really good qualified tenants, it's going to alleviate a lot of stresses, right? Because non-payment is the biggest stress, right? In my opinion, right? If you're not collecting rent, can't make any money, right?
Yeah.
Next thing would be your rehab, right? So like there's things that happen during rehab that were consistent issues, right? When tenants would move in. So we'd highlight those, we'd spreadsheet them, and I'd send it out to all the rehab crews. Hey, when you're rehabbing the property, make sure you're checking X, Y, and Z. And I just send a group text to all my contractors, or my project manager always group texts me with everyone that's working. Not that I read every text, but it's always there if I need to go back and check something, right?
Yeah.
So we always, things come up. We're like, hey, you need to make sure you're doing X. Hey, you need to make sure all the door handles match before you leave. That was a big issue we were having, right? We couldn't find keys in these places. So at the end, they would change the door lock so everything matched every time. And just making sure everyone's on the same page because the guys that are doing my rehabs, they're not just doing one rehab and leaving. These guys, I've had guys that have been with me for 4+ years now. They did
Mm,
the first guy that did our first rehab is still with me today.
mm,
That's unheard of in this industry to be 4+
yeah.
years, you know, probably 15 to 20 houses a year the guy's been doing for me. So I
Wow.
mean, that's huge, right? And that's the kind of relationship that like I think really goes a long way because they're not just doing one house and they're leaving. I don't want that because I train them to, hey, you're going to buy this paint, you're going to buy this cabinet, you're going to buy these flooring, you're going to buy. So all the SKUs are the same in every house. You could walk
Hmm.
into a house in Akron, Canton, Barberton, Ohio, wherever it may be, and it's going to look identical on the inside with the paint, the
Interesting.
cabinets, the floor, the carpet, everything.
Nice. That's a great
Yeah,
system.
there's no
And
guesswork.
so, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so your actual management team then is it in-house employees or is it all outsourced?
We have a management team. So there's multiple people in the office, right? So you got someone that handles like, releases and maintenance, and you have someone that does like debt collections on water leases, whatever it might be, right? Day six, you're late for rent, you're getting an email, a text, and a call. Period. We're gonna find out what's going on, right? And that's the way it's got to be. And if you're not paid by the 15th, boom, you're getting tagged with a 3-day notice to vacate or pay. You can't let it go on, right? You got to be on it immediately. So I got my in-house office staff, and then we have maintenance men as well. So we have 3 maintenance guys that go around and handle whatever needs to be handled, which is huge, right? Because you're able to dispatch people within 24 hours of the maintenance call.
Mm,
So one of the things I think tenants get upset with, they put in a maintenance call. My landlord never fixes anything. Well, that's bullshit. We do it.
yeah, yeah.
We're there, and that's something that I think is super important to make sure you're timely because then the tenants want to stay, right? They want to be there because everything's kept up, right? And then we also something we do that might be a little different. Everyone's like, "Hey, let's maximize the rent. I want to be top of the market." We don't do that. We're not the
Mm,
top of the market. So, like, let's say rent in that area is like 12.45, 12.50. We're going for 12.25.
mm,
You're leaving $25 on the table, but that person can never leave your house and get a better deal,
mm,
right? If the market rate's 12.50, next year it's going to be higher than 12.50, and you have the most updated house on the block, they're never going to leave. Because what kills cash flow? Vacancy. Whether that's short term rentals, long term rentals, mid-term rentals. If you have vacancy, that kills cash flow. So we always try to make sure we're just a stitch below that high point in the market, which has really been helpful to our success, I think. In the beginning, I kind of learned that, hey, we were renting at the top of the market. We had a lot of turnover. And that was something that we've kind of evolved, you know, which is
interesting.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it really, I mean, would you move if you had cheaper rent than everyone else around you?
Right. Exactly. No, it makes sense. And,
Right.
and do you raise rent? Because that's always a question. If you have a good tenant,
Yes.
do you, when their lease is due, do you raise the rent?
Yeah, we do. So we always try to shoot for something. And it doesn't matter if you raise it $25, $50, or $10. You need to get them in that mindset. Year one, there's going to be a rent increase.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So like we've taken $10 if they're a great tenant, and and they're like, yeah, we try to like let the tenant set the precedent, right? We're like, hey, we do have your lease coming up. We really want you to stay. The owners usually do want a rent increase because of increased taxes, insurance, whatever. Is there an amount that I can go to fight with the owner to battle for you that you're comfortable with? So you're
Mm,
already setting them up for the thought that, hey, I am going to have a rent increase. Let me tell them what I want to pay,
that makes
right?
sense.
And then
Interesting.
usually they're like, I could do $15, I could do $25 more. So then you take it, and you're grooming them for an increase every year now is what you've done.